What is, however, a great thing is to die in a manner which is honourable, enlightened, and courageous. Think how long now you've been doing the same as them. Food, sleep, sex, the never-ending cycle. The desire for death can be experienced not merely by the enlightened or the brave or the unhappy, but even by the squeamish. Well, Marcellinus wanted no urging, only a helper. His slaves refused to obey him in this, whereupon our Stoic talked away their fears, letting them know that the household staff could only be in danger if there had been any room for doubt as to whether their master's death had been a voluntary one. Besides, he told them, it was just as bad to let other people see you ordering your master not to kill himself as actually to kill him. He then suggested to Marcellinus himself that it would not be an unkind gesture if, in the same way as at the end of a dinner, the leftovers are divided among the attendants. Something were offered at the end of his life to those who had served throughout it. Marcellinus had a generous and good-natured disposition, which was no less evident when it meant personal expense, and he distributed accordingly little sums of money among his slaves, who were now in tears, and went out of his way to comfort them all. He did not need to resort to a weapon or to shedding blood. After going without food for 3 days, he had a steam tent put up in his own bedroom. A bath was brought in which he lay for a long time, and as fresh supplies of hot water were continually poured in, he passed almost imperceptibly away, not without, as he commented more than once, a kind of pleasurable sensation, one that is apt to be produced by the gentle fading out of which those of us who have ever fainted will have some experience. I have digressed, but you will not have minded hearing this story, since you will gather from it that your friend's departure was not a difficult or unhappy one. Although his death was self-inflicted, the manner of his passing was supremely relaxed, a mere gliding out of life. Yet the story is not without its practical value for the future, for frequently enough necessity demands just such examples. The times are frequent enough when we cannot reconcile ourselves to dying, or to knowing that we ought to die. No one is so ignorant as not to know that some day he must die. Nevertheless, when death draws near, he turns wailing and trembling, looking for a way out. Wouldn't you think a man a prize fool if he burst into tears because he didn't live 1,000 years ago? A man is as much a fool for shedding tears because he isn't going to be alive 1,000 years from now. There's no difference between the one and the other. You didn't exist and you won't exist. You've no concern with either period. This is the moment you've been pitched into. Supposing you were to make it longer, how long would you make it? What's the point of tears? What's the point of prayers? You're only wasting your breath. So give up hoping that your prayers can bring some change in the decisions of the gods. Those decisions are fixed and permanent, part of the mighty and eternal train of destiny. You will go the way that all things go. What is strange about that? That is the law to which you were born. It was the lot of your father, your mother, your ancestors, and of all who came before you, as it will be of all who come after you. There is no means of altering the irresistible succession of events which carries all things along in its binding grip. Think of the multitudes of people doomed to die that will be following you, that will be keeping you company. I imagine you'd be braver about it if thousands upon thousands were dying with you. The fact is that men, as well as other creatures, are breathing their last in one way or another in just such numbers at the very instant when you're unable to make your mind up about death. You weren't thinking, surely, that you wouldn't yourself one day arrive at the destination towards which you've been heading from the beginning? Every journey has its end. Here, I imagine, you'll be expecting me to tell you the stories of examples set by heroic men. Well, I'll tell you about ones which children have set. History relates the story of the famous Spartan, a mere boy, who, when he was taken prisoner, kept shouting in his native Doric, "I shall not be a slave." He was as good as his word. The first time he was ordered to perform a slave's task, some humiliating household job, his actual orders were to fetch a disgusting chamber pot, he dashed his head against a wall and cracked his skull open. Freedom is as near as that. Is anyone really still a slave? Would you not rather your own son died like that than lived by reason of spinelessness to an advanced age? Why be perturbed then about death when even a child can meet it bravely? Suppose you refuse to follow him. You will just be dragged after him. Assume the authority which at present lies with others. Surely you can adopt the spirited attitude of that boy and say, "No slave am I." At present, you unhappy creature, slave you are. Slave to your fellow men, slave to circumstance, and slave to life. For life itself is slavery, if the courage to die be absent. Have you anything that might induce you to wait? You have exhausted the very pleasures that make you hesitate and hold you back. Not one of them has any novelty for you, not one of them now fails to bore you out of sheer excess. You know what wine or honey wine tastes like. It makes no difference whether 100 or 1,000 flagons go through your bladder. All you are is a strainer. You are perfectly familiar with the taste of oysters or mullet. Your luxurious way of life has kept back not a single fresh experience for you to try in coming years, and yet these are the things from which you are reluctant to be torn away. What else is there which you would be sorry to be deprived of? Friends? Do you know how to be a friend? Your country? Do you really value her so highly that you would put off your dinner for her? The sunlight? If you could, you would put out that light, for what have you ever done that deserved a place in it? Confess it. It is no attachment to the world of politics or business, or even the world of nature, that makes you put off dying. The delicatessens, in which there is nothing you have left untried, are what you are reluctant to leave. You are scared of death. But how magnificently heedless of it you are, while you are dealing with a dish of choice mushrooms. You want to live. But do you know how to live? You are scared of dying. And tell me, is the kind of life you lead really any different from being dead? Caligula was once passing a column of captives on the Latin road, when one of them, with a hoary old beard reaching down to his breast, begged to be put to death. "So," replied Caligula, "you are alive then, as you are?" That is the answer to give to people to whom death would actually come as a release. You are scared of dying? So you are alive then, as you are? Someone, though, will say, "But I want to live because of all the worthy activities I'm engaged in. I'm performing life's duties conscientiously and energetically, and I'm reluctant to leave them undone." Come now, surely you know that dying is also one of life's duties? You're leaving no duty undone, for there's no fixed number of duties laid down, which you're supposed to complete. Every life, without exception, is a short one. Look at in relation to the universe, even the lives of Nestor and Satya were short. In Satya, who ordered that her epitaph should record that she had lived to the age of 99, you have an example of someone actually boasting of a prolonged old age. Had it so happened that she had lasted out the 100th year, everybody surely would have found her quite insufferable. As it is with a play, so it is with life. What matters is not how long the acting lasts, but how good it is. It is not important at what point you stop. Stop whatever you will. Only make sure that you round it off with a good ending. Letter number 78. I am all the more sorry to hear of the trouble you are having with constant catarrh, and the spells of feverishness which go with it, when it becomes protracted to the point of being chronic, because this kind of ill health is something I have experienced myself. In its early stages, I refused to let it bother me, being still young enough then to adopt a defiant attitude to sickness and put up with hardships. But eventually, I succumbed to it altogether. Reduced to a state of complete emaciation, I had arrived at a point where the catarrhal discharges were virtually carrying me away with them altogether. On many an occasion, I felt an urge to cut my life short there and then, and was only held back by the thought of my father, who had been the kindest of fathers to me, and was then in his old age. Having in mind not how bravely I was capable of dying, but how far from bravely he was capable of bearing the loss, I commanded myself to live. There are times when even to live is an act of bravery. Let me tell you the things that provided me with consolation in those days, telling you to begin with that the thoughts which brought me this peace of mind had all the effect of medical treatment. Comforting thoughts, provided they are not of a discreditable kind, contribute to a person's cure. Anything which raises his spirits benefits him physically as well. It was my Stoic studies that really saved me. For the fact that I was able to leave my bed and was restored to health, I give the credit to philosophy. I owe her, and it is